Hello, everybody out there in YouTube. We are the Middle-Aged Guys, and we're going to be bullshitting about something that we're really enthusiastic about, and that's animation. To get the introductions out of the way, I'm the Reverend.
The Theme here.
I'm Grey Mouse One.
If you've paid attention to this particular channel, all right, you will know that although we've been really critical about the DC offerings in the cinematic universe, we're really big fans of the TV series that they put out, and especially of the animation, Warner Brothers animation offerings, ever since Batman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, so on and so forth, going all the way up through everything. We are great big fans. Now, you would also know that we're big fans of Young Justice. Okay, Young Justice was a great series, especially for those folks and younger fans who didn't grow up during the time that Batman the Animated Series was in its heyday, back in the 90s on air and everything. You know, when they actually were offered Young Justice, they thought, "Oh wow, I get it now. This is the reason why, you know, my older brothers or uncles or aunts or sisters or whatnot. I see what they were looking at. All right, this is a great story that I can go ahead and I can latch onto." And the series went ahead and ran 2 seasons. And even though it was really obvious that Warner Brothers Animation wanted to go ahead and run a longer series and continue the story, it was canceled by Cartoon Network abruptly at the end of the 2nd season. All right, geeks were not happy about that. We were not happy about that. So, in one of the few good things that the geek internet push and effort actually went toward, you know, when Young Justice was offered up not only on DVD but Blu-ray, but also on Netflix and everything else, they went out en masse, and this is what they watched. And they went out and they campaigned. They petitioned Warner Brothers. Hey, look, bring this shit back. This is good shit. You left us high and dry. All right, you were. I can go into another metaphor, but it's kind of dirty. But you know, you left us high and dry, and we're here unsatisfied. Okay, we want this, and that push that was put out was done for years. So much so that Warner Brothers and DC Animation finally came to terms, and they're like, "Hey, look, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna release out Young Justice Season 3. Young Justice Outsiders is going to be airing in 2018. It's going to be part of the DC Direct digital service. What that entails completely, nobody knows just yet, but we're going to be finding out in the future. But, you know, at this time, if you're somebody who's interested and you're just kind of catching up, and you're like, so what is the big fucking deal with Young Justice? You know, am I going to have to go back and watch Season 1 and 2 before I get to Season 3? In a word, yes, you are. All right? And that's what this new particular series of videos that we're going to be doing is going to be all about. We're going to be going through each and every episode of Young Justice from Season 1, Episode 1, all the way through the end of Season 2. And we're going to go ahead and give our reviews and our thoughts about each and every episode. We're going to keep it really clean. We're going to cover what we liked about the episode, what we didn't like, or if there isn't anything that we didn't like, what we might have changed about the episode. And also we're going to mention things that stuck out to us now that we've watched it, like, I don't know, 3rd, 4th, 12th, 24th, 36th, 64th time. You know, those particular details that we catch now that is really important and really sets up future episodes down the road. Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the particulars. Was there anything I missed about that, guys? Nope. All right. So without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to jump in and we're going to do a quick synopsis and review of Young Justice Season 1, Episode 1, Independence Day. This particular episode originally aired out in November 26, 2010. Considering that this episode is almost 7 years old, I'm not going to give you a fucking spoiler warning, all right? But if you want to go out of your way and watch the episode and you want to follow along and see what we go ahead and point out, you can find the episodes on Netflix, all right? You can find them on Blu-ray. Really cheap, and it's definitely not a waste of 22 minutes, all right? So, quick summary of episode number 1. We are introduced to the sidekicks of Batman, Aquaman, Flash, and Green Arrow in the form of Robin, Aqualad, Kid Flash, and Speedy as they make their way toward the Hall of Justice. En route, they take down 4 different villains, all with cold powers. Mr. Freeze, Captain Cold, Icicle Jr., and Killer Frost. Okay? They're all in a rush. Turns out, guess what? The sidekicks are now actually going to be given a behind-the-scene kind of tour or introduction to the inner labyrinth or the inner workings of the Hall of Justice. Okay? When they arrive there, turns out that they're not exactly completely happy about just being given the tour. It turns out that, Speedy goes out of his way and he explains to all the other sidekicks that, guess what? This isn't even the real base for the Justice League, all right? There's this huge satellite in orbit above Earth. That's their real base, and we're not allowed there. I thought we were allowed there. We're supposed to be – we're not sidekicks. We're partners, okay? And that's pretty much his spiel the whole time. They get a call, an emergency call, telling him that there is a fire at a Cadmus lab in Washington, D.C., and right after that, they get another call from Zatara saying that they have to go out of the way and stop Wotan from blocking out the sun. Okay, so this is a world-changing, world-ending event. So the main Justice League members go out of their way and they leave to rendezvous with Zatara to defeat Wotan, leaving the younger sidekicks there wondering, okay, what are we supposed to do here? All right. We came out here, we were hoping to see something really cool, but as Robin puts it, I didn't plan to have a play date with all of you guys. Mm-hmm. So why don't we go ahead and we check out the Cadmus fire? So that's what they do. They arrive at Cadmus, they find out the lab is on fire. Once they get into the lab, they find out that nothing is as it seems, and there's actually a real research center 54 floors below the ground, which is being housed and raising alien clone beings called xenomorphs, okay? And then they find out that within those xenomorphs, there's actually a clone of Superman called Project KR, which is actually Superboy. They go out of their way and they free Superboy, all right? And this is a spoiler ending, I guess. But during the efforts of freeing Superboy, they get their asses kicked rather soundly, and they get captured, okay? I think that covers it for the synopsis and summary, right, guys? Mm-hmm. Okay, so on to the part where we start throwing in something original. All right? Out of all the things that happened in the particular episode, what is the one thing that you liked the most, considering that this is the first episode of a brand new series?
One thing that wasn't out of place is that, okay, guys like us, middle-aged guys, we're used to Batman the Animated Series. We're used to Justice League. We're used to shit like Teen Titans. It didn't change that format. They didn't change as far as saying, okay, yeah, this is something incredibly new. This is not Teen Titans Go. That's where I'm going with it. As far as the characters go, the sidekicks and their mentors and even the bad guys, everything was introduced to you within 5 minutes. You knew what they were, you knew what they wanted, you knew what they were after, and you knew the conflict. Speedy, yeah, he knows the truth about the Watchtower, and he tells the other sidekicks. I mean, he was even like, don't call us sidekicks, not after today. He actually thought that he was actually going to get be a part of the fucking league at that point, because all of them were like, today is the day. Then Speedy actually fucking quits. I'm like, okay, story blown wide open. Give me the rest. And they didn't, like I said, I love the fact that they didn't change the format as far as saying, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to take it slow. We're going to do this one by one. No, they were like, you're heroes, you're villains, here's their fucking base, here's a story, go with it.
Yep. What about you, Graham Mouse?
I kind of in the same boat. I mean, they pretty much introduced you to 15 characters just in the first 10 minutes of the episode. They introduced the sidekicks, and they also introduced the more the Justice League. it was very interesting. They also introduced, like, you know, 4 of the main villains, which, you know, I like how they did that. I also liked, it wasn't just, it seems to me like it wasn't just thrown together. You know, it was thought out. It was thought out, you know, a well thought out plot. And then on the technical side of it, I did like the animation. It felt like you know, a DC animation.
Yeah, I got to say that one of the reasons why we love the Warner Brothers animations for the DC properties and IPs is that the animation is top notch, especially when it comes to Western animation. A lot of times is considered woefully lacking in comparison to the stuff that you get from anime from overseas and stuff like that, until you notice that some of the rough third cut anime type things that they do. But, you know, well, that's part of the reason why we love this. One of the things that I really love about this particular episode, and it really did stick out to me, was that the way that they introduce you and open up the episode is that they dump you right into the action. Okay, they don't take time out to do long exposition. They don't explain who the characters are or anything else. Guess what? They assume you already know who the fuck Flash is, or who Batman is, and who Robin is. All right, they don't treat you like a dumbass who knows anything. Which, even if you're not very familiar with them, because of the way that they opened up, and then they dump you straight into the action, you're gripped, you're engaged right away. I mean, they did the same thing with one of my favorite Batman animated series episodes, Over the Edge, all right, where literally that particular episode starts out and you're like, wait a minute, am I on part 2 of a 2-part episode, or is this the end of the fucking series? All right. Now, it wasn't so extreme with this particular episode, but no, they sit there, action right away. First thing that's happening is that you open up at the park and Mr. Freeze is turning people into human icicles. All right. And then it jump cuts from, you know, hey, here's Batman Robin dealing with Mr. Freeze. Here's Kid Flash dealing with Captain Cold. Here's Speedy Green Arrow with Icicle Jr. All right. Here's Aquaman, Aqualad with Killer Frost and everything else. And they go right into their thing. And that right there is great. I mean, they don't have to sit there. They don't have to do the long setup. It's like, okay, I'm going to give you this particular experience. You're not going to have to wait for it. It's just going to punch you in the face. And it was great. All right. Now, all praise aside, was there anything about this particular episode that you didn't like, or maybe if there wasn't anything that you disliked, was there anything about this episode that, if you had the choice to, that you would have changed a little bit, and why?
No, not really, because everything, for me, the pacing was good, the storytelling was good, the opening up was good, the fact that they was like, okay, they let the sidekicks go out on their own, and they had to learn things as everything went along. They had to learn about each other as things went along. It's not like they didn't know about each other, but they had to know as personality and how they act in certain situations. And then there's Superboy. They actually free him, and, you know, again, that opens up a new can of worms for the next episode. And no, I actually liked everything about the episode. I don't have any gripes.
What about you, Grey Mouse?
I'm kind of the same way. I don't really have any gripes for that episode. I thought, like I said before, it was a well thought out. Even though there's a lot of things going on at one time, you were thrown straight into it. That could be as somebody. Now, maybe there is. I do got a small gripe. If I didn't know what I know now as a middle-aged guy growing up with cartoons, and even before I was born, DC cartoons, you know, I feel that if I was somebody who didn't know anything about the characters, that I would be completely lost. Just how you are literally thrown in. You know, you're expected to know who Robin was, Freeze was. You're expected to know who Batman was. Everybody knows who Batman is, but I'm just saying, not many people know, you know, the sidekicks of Speedy. I mean, how many people Speedy, those type, Aqualad, those.
You know what that kind of reminds me of? That kind of reminds me of a Simpsons episode when Adam West was on there, and then that's a picture of me and Robin, and Bart was like, "Who the hell is Robin?" That's when the 1989 Tim Burton Batman came out in the theaters. So that kind of made it relevant there. That what you said.
That's what I'm saying. Now, I mean, being that I'm familiar with all these characters, so it was easy. It was very easy on my eyes and on my knowledge of the DC universe to go striving, hit the road running. But who was this Young Justice aimed at anyway? Were they aimed at bringing new people in, or were they more aimed at people like us? So that might be the only gripe that I have, is that if you don't already have a solid foundation of DC and how DC works, as in the characters and the stuff around the characters, then you'd be lost. Otherwise, it's great. That's the only complaint I have.
Yeah. I have to agree with you guys that my complaints aren't really complaints. All right. I think as far as it goes, if I were to find a detail that I would like to change, or maybe a detail that I think is a little too well worn, it's the whole teenage coming of age angst, you're not my dad type rebellion type deal. That was just a little. I thought that was a little bit too on the nose. All right. Granted, this is a brand new series, and you want to go ahead and be able to make it presentable and understandable to as large of an audience as possible. Mm-hmm. Okay. And because of that, guess what? This is really easy to understand. I understand that. This is really easy to understand. And I can go ahead and I can present it out to you. I think, though, as far as it goes, maybe I don't even think it stems from like being annoyed with the character Speedy, because I understand what's going on with Speedy. All right. Especially since I've watched the series like multiple times, I see where this, I know where this is going and everything. My perception is a little bit different. But if I were to change it, like maybe I would sit there and instead of having, the more level-headed or the more, I don't know, well-spoken Justice League members go out of his way to sit there and negotiate. Look, this is a situation that we're leaving off to that you guys aren't ready yet. If Batman himself was just sitting there saying, stay here, all right, and they asked him why, and his only response was the Batman response of, stay here. There is no fucking explanation. Just do what I fucking asked you to do. Then I think some of the ensuing reactions from some of the other folks, knowing all the characters involved would probably sit better with me. All right, maybe that's just something, a clue to my personality, but that's probably the only thing that I would change.
I agree with you, but to me, that would have been like, okay, they're still being treated like children rather than sidekicks if that would have happened. Speedy is the oldest out of all those guys.
Yeah.
So, he wanted to be treated as an equal, and he was so upset that he wasn't, and that's why he quit. He walked. He was like, I guess they're right about you guys. You're not ready. And they even questioned it. Why didn't we leave with Speedy? And it got you kind of emotionally involved. It was like, damn, they're heroes. They're risking their lives, and they're still being treated as sidekicks, children at this point.
And I hate to say this word. I hate this word, but it is a tried and true trope. It's just one of those tropes that's always been used, but in this type of animation or this type of discussion. But yeah, I agree. I agree with all you. I did think that, like I said, I think that the Justice League was a little condescending to them, treating them as, they came in all excited at the beginning of the episode. Yeah, I'm going to be initiated into the Justice League. Then they just got the front room, basically a front room museum tour of.
They just got in the waiting lobby.
Pretty much is what it was, and that would piss me off too. And it pissed Speedy off. You just see how perturbed he is about that. And he walked. He's like, "Screw this! I'm out of here."
Well, because the tourists had the same access. They were just above taking pictures.
And that's the only thing that I have. That's. But the thing is, though, my gripes actually, I feel that is actually part of the story plots for the future, the future of the series. So I can understand why those tropes were put there because it actually supported the story. So that's what I said. I have really nothing to complain about except for those small little gripes that I mentioned.
Well, and the thing is that the one thing that I want to go ahead and I'm going to convey, and this is the only disclaimer that I'm going to put out there, is that even though I love this series greatly, okay, I mean, I've subscribed and I've dropped Netflix, all right, 3 different fucking times, okay, and this right here is one of the reasons why I re-signed up again, all right. I'm not going to say that, even with as fervent as I am about the series, I'm not going to say that it's perfect. And that's kind of the reason why I brought that particular point up. But you did touch on something that I want to go ahead and talk about next. Now that we've watched this series already, maybe we're on the 3rd, 4th, 12th, 64th watching of this particular series or whatnot. Was there something that you noticed in this particular episode that hinted off to bigger other things or made huge illusion that was going to come back in other episodes later on down the road? If you guys want to go ahead and expound on that, that's the next thing we want to talk about.
The funniest thing about the beginning of the episode is that they were going after 4 cold villains. You knew that had to be something up. That was just way beyond coincidence that 4 cold villains do something at the exact same time and then they get captured. So yeah, that was a sparking for something later on, which was great.
Batman even pulled off the Justice League to the side, after they talked to the kids, off to the side and said, what coincidence is having 4 ice people or 4 ice people that are at the same time attacking at the same time. That I agree. And then also I think Speedy leaving, I think that kind of foreshadows stuff. And yeah.
To your point, Gray Mouse, what if Speedy left and we never saw him again?
Well, that's the thing about both of those is that, with the four ice criminals and everything, or ice villains, they show up again in episode, I believe it's episode 11, which is the Terror Twins. All right. So they become central to that particular episode, and then Speedy leaving. That is something that comes back constantly, not throughout the first season, but both the first and second season. All right, that is a plot point that comes back, throughout the whole of the fucking series. All right, the one thing that kind of stood out to me, all right, and this is something really, really small, and I didn't pick it up until I actually rewatched the episode during lunch today, was while they are walking off, after Batman sits there and says, what's the coincidence that, 4 ice criminals and everything were doing attacks on one day. And they're about to rendezvous with Zatara, take on Wotan and everything. I believe it's Green Arrow. He sits there, he turns over to Martian Manhunter, and he says, I bet you're happy that you didn't bring you-know-who down today, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And without even a hesitation, Martian Manhunter goes ahead and goes, yep. And the reason why that's important is because the person that they're talking about is Miss Martian, okay, who is actually going to be introduced, I believe, within the next 3 or 4 episodes, okay? And if you follow along throughout the thing, she's a key member of the team, and she, whole storyline arcs revolve around her. So it's just great. And I think that pretty much covers the majority of what we thought about for this particular one. In a nutshell, first episode of Young Justice Independence Day aired out on November 26, 2010. Great episode. Like I said a little bit earlier in the video, nothing is perfect. Very, very minor gripes. But guess what? I encourage you out there, if you're watching this right now and you haven't seen the actual episode, you can find it on Netflix. You can find the Blu-rays. It's readily available. Heck, you can even find it in some of the places with the peg legs and parrots. But I'm not encouraging any of that. But go out of your way and watch the episodes and see what we're talking about for ourselves. If it doesn't get you by the first episode, and I'm going to fully admit, it may not, give it a few more. All right? There's a reason why people were so fervent about getting the third season out. All right. Was there anything I've missed so far, gentlemen, or we're about to wrap this one up?
No, we can wrap this one up. Is once, like you said, great episode. It opened the floodgates to a lot that happens, especially within the next 3 episodes. It just opened up a whole bunch of floodgates.
It was the ending was insane. I mean, Superboy just made mincemeat of the 3. The camera just panned away with them laying on the deck. Like damn, knocked out.
yeah. He pretty much soloed all of them, and it was like, yeah. And kind of the reason why you guys are.
He's like, just opens up that door, It's like.
Yep. The shit's done. Clean it up, guys.
Yep.
Yep. Alrighty. With that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wrap this particular video up, folks. Like I said, this is going to be a start of a brand new series that we're going to be concentrating on. We're going to go through every episode of Young Justice all the way through Season 1, Season 2, leading up into Young Justice Season 3, Outsiders. I think with the number of episodes that we've got, we should wrap it up by the time that Young Justice Season 3 comes out. At least that's our initial plans.
Yeah.
It may change. But, what are your thoughts on this? If you've seen Young Justice, if you watched both the seasons, if you've seen this episode, what are your thoughts on it? If you haven't, give us your comments. Leave us a comment below. Tell us what you think about it. Shit, tell us if you think we're full of shit. All right, if you think we're completely off base. We don't mind that. We completely encourage that because that tells us at least somebody's watching these videos. All right. While you're at it, hit like, hit subscribe. Every comment is the start of a brand new conversation. Like we say with every good conversation, it doesn't matter if you agree or disagree. As long as you stop for a moment and think about the things that we're actually presenting to you, we know we've accomplished a lot more than you could ever imagine. Our bullshit on Young Justice Season 1, Episode 1, Independence Day ends right here. I'm the Reverend.
The theme here.
Gray Mouse 1.
Every form of entertainment has a right to exist, even if you don't like it. You're overwhelmed. Freeze was underwhelmed. Why is anyone just whelmed? Credits.
Oh my God. I think I'm officially whelmed.